Hey, welcome back to Golf 3RX's Winning What's in the Bag, and this may be the final Winning What's in the Bag of 2024, but we just got done with the PNC Championship, and congratulations to Bernhard Longer and his son Jason. They won this awesome family event that's so much fun to watch with tons of previous champions, legends of the golf game playing with their children and having their kids out there. It is just a fun one to watch every year. So Bernhard Longer and his son Jason took the win, and we're going to go through Bernhard's bag. Unfortunately, with Jason's bag, we don't have what's in the bag photos. We didn't get anything close. A lot of the kids out there are a little bit more protected by their parents, so we don't have that there. We've got some general idea of what he was playing, but not anything concrete to go with. With Bernhard, we have a few in-hand photos from his bag, and we got a little bit more detail. So we'll get into Bernhard Longer's bag, which is always interesting. He's got some new and older stuff in there, and the guy plays what he likes, and that's pretty cool. So congratulations to Jason and Bernhard on their win. That is really awesome. So we're going to start at the top of the bag as we always do, and Bernhard is playing the iconic Ping G400 driver. Now, it doesn't have as big of a cult following as the G400 Max from that time, but at the time, the G400 series was considered one of the best at the time. Extremely playable, extremely straight, extremely forgiving, and Bernhard is still playing it. And there are actually a few people who have played it up until recently when they've switched out. But the 400 has lived a long, great life, and it is a standard 400. Now, back when the 400 was out, there was a 400 Max, a 400 LST, and a 400 SFT, along with an actual just 400. So he's playing the standard 400 model. It's a 9-degree head, and his hosel looks to be set at the small minus position. Now, the hosel did change from the 400 to the 410, so back in the 400 days, a small minus meant 0.6 degrees of loft change. So it's actually subtracting 0.6 degrees of loft, so playing like 8.4. The new adapters are 1 and 1.5 degrees. This one was 0.6 and 1 degrees, so the new ones are a little bit more adjustable. This one here, minus 0.6 degrees of loft, and I believe standard lie. It's really hard to find a chart from back in the day with the G400. It actually has a Graphite Design Tour AD IZ shaft. Not really sure on the flex and weight, only because it's an older shaft and it is completely worn off. As you can see from the photos, you can see kind of the white lines. It fades into black. There's a very hint of a little bit of orange there. I can't tell what the weight and flex is, but he is playing an IZ. Now, the IZ has kind of a firm handle, a medium midsection, and a firm plus tip section in terms of flex. And it's kind of high launch and low spin. So it's kind of the firmer handle version of the DI. Very smooth. Played on tour a whole lot. When it first came out, it was on a ton of bags, but Bernhard evidently likes those higher launching shafts. We move into 3-wood, and his 3-wood is a little bit older as well. It is the TaylorMade Stealth 2 Plus 3-wood. So this is the 15-degree head, and this hosel setting looks to be in the upright position. From where it is, you don't see any of the markings of high, low, anything like that. Or standard, so it looks to be in the full upright position, which should move that, depending on the head and measurements, because on tour they do measure them, it should move that lie angle to around 60 degrees. The weight on this one looks to be slid all the way back, so it looks for maximum launch, which that head, it makes sense. It's kind of a slightly lower launching, but a low spin head. When you slide that weight back, you can add some spin and add some launch to it. It is shafted up with a Graphite Design a Tour AD DI7 stiff. This is the 70-gram version of the DI. The DI, like the IZ, kind of mid-high launch and low spin, but it is a little different in terms of profile. It's got a kind of medium stiffness handle section, medium stiffness midsection, and then a stiff tip. So a little different feel to it. Extremely smooth, orange and white. It's been played forever, almost as iconic as Bernhard is. Again, like I said, mid-high launch, low spin, comes in at 74 grams and 3.2 degrees of torque in the 7S. The next thing we move into hybrids, and his hybrids may be some of the oldest clubs out there at the whole PNC event. These are the Adams Idea Pro. Now, I believe these were from around 2006, these heads were. The first one he has in his bag is an 18-degree head. I believe it's marked as a 2, but the tour issue ones I don't think had the 2s on them. I think they just have the loft. So 18 degrees, and it's got an 8-gram sole weight on it to probably get the swing weight correct. It is shafted up with an RT Technologies Midas hybrid shaft. Now, RT Technologies was kind of a little bit unknown. They flew under the radar, but they made it huge with the Zeus driver shaft back in the day as well. But the Midas is a filament wound shaft. For a hybrid, it's about 88 grams, and comes in about 2.3 degrees of torque. The next hybrid in his bag is kind of a 3 hybrid, we'll call it. The lofts were a little different back then. This is a 22-degree head. Nowadays, this would probably be called a 4. Back then, it was kind of called a 3. But again, Adam's Idea Pro from around 2006 head, also nicknamed sometimes the Peanut. It has a 5-gram sole weight to get the swing weight dialed in, and it has the same RT Technologies Midas shaft in there. This is a mid-launch shaft at 88 grams, so again, like a lot of his stuff out there, he likes a little bit of height, helps get the ball in the air, and again, another filament wound Midas that we see in the bag. When we get into irons, he's playing kind of a little bit of a mixed set, and Bernhard is very particular about his irons, so he's got some interesting stuff. For 4 through 6 iron, he has the Tour Edge Exotics CBX Forged. These are a couple generations old. They were kind of a cavity-backed forged iron, but more tour-inspired from Tour Edge. He actually has, if you look at the photo, kind of 1, 2, depending on the iron, weight ports drilled out of each head. Now, some of them look to be filled with what could be possibly metal, maybe something tungsten, to raise the weight of the head up for swing weight purposes, or maybe to move the CG placement. And then other ones, it looks like they're drilled and filled with maybe some type of plastic or polymer or something like that to maybe lighten the head or maybe move that CG in a different direction. So very different on some of these heads, but all of them have a little bit of porting to them, which is perfect for Bernhard because he loves to have these kind of tinkered, interesting irons or clubs throughout his bag. So after the 6 iron, for 7 through 9 iron, he moves into Tour Edge Exotic Pro 723s. These came out in 2023 and are a great, actually, looking cavity-back forged club from Tour Edge. Extremely soft, slightly bigger blade size than some other cavity backs out there, but very good looking, reduced offset, and actually very soft. Play 7 through 9 iron in those, and they're shafted up with True Temper Dynamic Gold Mid 115 S300 shafts. So these are the little bit higher launching. They consider mid-launching, mid-spin, but a little bit higher launching than a traditional Dynamic Gold. Now for his pitching wedge, he plays something, again, totally different. It is a Tour Edge Exotics BL Proto pitching wedge. So it kind of looks like a forged blade. You can see it in kind of the lower left-hand corner of the photo. You can just kind of see it there. It's slightly blurry, but it's kind of a muscle back blade looking pitching wedge. Not sure what it's about, anything like that, the lofts, anything, but it does look like a muscle back, and it is also shafted up with a True Temper Dynamic Gold Mid 115 shaft. These are 115 grams in the S300 in the stiff option, and again, mid-launch, mid-spin. When we move into his wedges, I'm not sure what he has for a gap wedge or if he even carries one, but the first wedge that we know of in his bag is a Cleveland 588 RTX. These are, many generations old, but are really classic there. A 56 degree. It is probably bent to 54. If you look at all the lead tape on the back has 54 written in Sharpie, so I'm assuming it's probably bent 2 degrees strong. Not sure on the sole bounce or anything like that because it is all covered with lead tape to get that head weight up. The next wedge in his bag that we know of is the Titleist Vokey Prototype 60 degree. It looks like it says Proto 2020 on it. So this is probably an SM8 kind of design wedge, but it's a 60 degree. Not sure a whole lot about it. The sole is completely blank. Looks like they've ground it down. It looks to be something like either a K-Star grind or maybe a low bounce K. It's got a little bit of a wider sole to it. It looks like it has some trailing edge relief. And from some angles, it almost looks like it has a little bit of leading edge grind as well. So maybe something kind of similar to the K-Star grind, but maybe slightly modified for Bernhard and how he likes to play his wedges. Both of these are shafted up with True Temper Dynamic Gold Tour Issue S400s, the 132 gram kind of classic wedge shaft that we seem to see every single week in most bags. But that is his wedge setup. And again, not really sure on a gap wedge, if one's there, what it is. We move to putter, and his putter is an Odyssey White Hot 2-ball, but it's long. So it's some people call it the broomstick, but the long putter, he stands up where it comes up to your chest. That's the style of putter he's been using for a long, long time. It is a white hot. It does look like it has a line on it as well that's been put on probably through tour, probably not done handmade like we all did with just a square edge and drawing a line on there. But it does have a line through the 2 balls, white hot insert, and he uses a unique grip on this. Most of these long putters have split grips. His is a split round grip, but what he does is it looks like he takes 2 Golf Pride Tour Velvets. The one he leaves it as a full-length grip, cuts a big hole in the top, slides that one down for the lower hand, and then takes at the top end the same Golf Pride Tour Velvet and cuts a section of the bottom of it off so it's a little shorter, and puts it at the top for his left hand to grip. So a little bit of a unique setup. He's been doing it for a long, long time. He loves the round grip on a putter. And there's a lot of people with those long putters that do use a rounder style of grip. Now, the grips for the rest of his clubs are Golf Pride V55s, the non-cords. So the V55 is kind of iconic. The cord one has a massive cult following. People love to get their hands on them. And the V55 has just a really aggressive traction on it. The one side has actually kind of yellow lines. They call it the swing right grip pattern, where it kind of helps you grip the club correctly. If you flip it over, you don't see it. But it's a little bit more aggressive than a Tour Velvet, using a similar rubber and kind of a similar texture in a way. It's just laid out differently. They don't make the V55 anymore, and the cord they sometimes release as kind of like a limited edition. But again, cult following, great grip. I've had a set of cords on a previous set of irons, and they were rough. They were great, and again, you kind of wish you could get them back. For ball, he's playing the Titleist Pro V1x. Not sure on which model, what year, if it's the brand new one, if it's an older one. Knowing Bernhard, it may be an older model because of some specific performance characteristic. But the Pro V1x does launch a little bit higher. It's got a little bit more spin, and it has a little bit firmer feel compared to the traditional Pro V1. So that is Bernhard Langer's winning what's in the bag for the PNC Championship. Again, I wish we had more information on Jason Langer's so we could break into both of those, but we just don't have enough where it makes it maybe even accurate. So that is Bernhard's. Congratulations to him and his son for winning the PNC Championship. Very fun, very cool event. That is it for 2024. So the next what's in the bag we'll see is probably in 2025. So you guys have a great holiday, a great new year, and we'll see you next year.